Have the New York Jets done enough to set quarterback Justin Fields up for success, and why? Not a ton of panic is necessarily needed at a roster construction level with all these talking points. Wide receiver two, tight end, even though I bring that one up a lot, and defensive line. And this is in response to two questions I got. If you guys ever want me to make a video about a certain topic, you could just leave it in the comments. This is from one from Eric and one from JC. So Eric, who is a Jet fan and an Ohio State grad, so he's got a lot riding on Justin Fields' season here. He says, I keep seeing content creators compare Justin Fields to Geno, Baker, Sam, but those guys all had elite wide receiver duos in their breakout years. Geno, DK, Lockett, Sam with JJ and Addison, Baker, Evans, and Godwin. I think we are not giving Fields the best chance to win. So if we're going to compare the Jets wide receiver room to those duos, there's no comparison, right? Because they don't have a wide receiver two who was as good as Lockett 3-4 years ago, or obviously Addison or Godwin, for sure, no doubt about it. But I think if Fields can have a breakout season, if he does, it's not going to look exactly like a Sam Darnold or Geno or Baker, because Justin Fields is a very high volume rushing quarterback, right? Is anybody expecting, even if Fields pops, like if he breaks out, is anybody expecting that to look like 4,200 yards passing with high 20s touchdown passes on like 570 passing attempts? If that happens, and he's also rushing for 900 yards, we call that Lamar Jackson and you win MVPs. I don't think anybody's expecting that. Now, Justin Fields has never thrown for over 2,600 yards in his career. He's had some seasons where he's missed games, all that. So, yeah, if he plays 17 games, you got to throw for over 3,000 yards. It's 2025. You got to throw for over 3,000 yards. But let's say he's just over 3,000 yards, whatever, 3,100 yards, is the team's second leading rusher, maybe leads the team in rushing touchdowns, mid-60s completion percentage, 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, maybe flirting with around 20 touchdown passes. To get his total touchdown count in the high 20s, mixing and rushing, 2-to-1 touchdowns to picks, over 7 yards per attempt, get that sack percentage under 8. That's the biggest one. He's shown he can do a lot of these other things. Got to get that sack percentage under 8 and maintain some of that efficiency he's had recently with higher volume. Kind of like a 2021 Jalen Hurts type of season. Eagles won 9 games, and that was before they really got that completely full loaded roster, and then Hurts popped into like a bona fide franchise QB. That to me is what a Fields breakout season looks like. And if you're thinking about around 3,000 passing yards or so, okay, Fields and Garrett can get 1,000 yards. DJ Moore had 1,300 yards with Justin Fields as his quarterback. So if Garrett's getting his standard 1,000, who he's gotten 1,000 with quarterbacks worse than Justin Fields, I can rip off 6 names of quarterbacks I have watched on this team in the past 3 years alone that are worse than Justin Fields, just at throwing. And Garrett Wilson still has 3,000 or 1,000 yard seasons. So there you go. And then I'm looking at Mason Taylor and Breece Hall. Breece Hall has had over 600 receiving yards in the past. Mason Taylor seems to be tight end one right away. So even if Breece and Taylor can combine for 1,000 yards, I think that's a pretty conservative estimate. That's 2/3 of your passing volume right there in those 3 guys. Then you need another 1,000 yards between Josh Reynolds, Arian Smith, Tyler Johnson, Alan Lazard, Jeremy Rucker, Braylon Allen, right? So I would say this Jets offense isn't as dependent on having like a 1A wide receiving weapon. Now, let's keep it real. If Garrett Wilson or Mason Taylor have to miss significant time, we are going to be screwed, right? It's really about the depth. I think if your top weapons are Garrett, Taylor, Breece, and Josh Reynolds, that's probably okay, because the rest of the guys who are beyond that top 4, you're talking about only 20% of your passing volume is probably left. Now, Garrett's been durable. I know Mason Taylor's got an ankle. He should be ready to go by week 1. So I actually think if the Jets coaches are up to snuff, Tanner Engstrand, offensive line is damn talented. If I know these are a lot of ifs, but I think they're possible to happen. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Mason Taylor pops as a rookie, if Brees Hall looks like he's in 2023 form, and you have some relative health luck in your weaponry, you can be okay. But obviously, what those other teams had was the advantage of if one of those receivers goes down, they had another guy they can plug in and be that wide receiver one. The Jets don't have that. But as it stands right now, based on the type of offense they want to run, I think that the Jets have the minimum threshold of a supporting cast to where if the coaches are up for it, and if Justin Fields just has it in him, like only 12 or 14 human beings on earth have it in them to be like a legitimate starting quarterback, I think there's enough to find out as of right now. That's just my opinion, given health. Now, JC says a big part of why we were bad last year, I think he means, was defensive line and tight end. Least athletic and physical tight end room I've ever seen in my life. Clemens, Kinlaw, and Reddick. We ripped them to shreds, but I don't think we have anybody who's even better than them now. Anybody out there we can sign. Definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting different results. So here's how I'm looking at this Jets roster, because I hear this and I fully understand it. If like I would love it if the Jets would have signed Noah Fant and Zadarius Smith and spent maybe that third round pick on a immediate starting defensive lineman next to Quinn Williams and let Stiggers and JBC figure it out at the back end of their corner room. That's fine. It's okay to disagree with the Jets sometimes on minor things like that. I think that's fine. But I will say this. Those type of signings, like, and we do it, the podcasters, we are the biggest criminals of this. We have podcast brain. We always think the New York Jets are two mediocre 29 to 31-year-olds away from turning the franchise around on 1-year deals. Oh, this guy, Keenan Allen. Oh my God. Yeah. 33-year-old Keenan Allen we're going to look back and say that was the moment when it all turned around, when we signed the hologram of Keenan Allen. Who's better than Tyler Johnson? I get it. Do I ever think he was going to play in New Jersey? No, but I get it. Amari Cooper, whatever. Jadeveon Clowney, okay. If they want to sign those guys, I'm down with it. That's cool. But when you look at the Jets' entire playoff drought, what is the season where we can look back and say, oh, if we signed those two dudes, it would have been fine? It never happens, because we're talking about, just accessory details that we want to add in when the Jets always have massive structural flaws that make those things almost irrelevant. Because last offseason it was Tyrants, it wasn't, instead of Noah Fant and Zadarius Smith or whatever defensive tackle might still be a free agent, it was Tyron Smith and Mike Williams. It was like, oh, we had those two holes that were keeping us up at night, and thank goodness we got Mike Williams and Tyron Smith. Now the draft is completely wide open. We can sleep like a baby. The Super Bowl is back on. And now Mike Williams and Tyron Smith obviously immediately were washed upon signing with the Jets. This is probably why they were free agents as long as they were. But even if they were okay, like even if Tyron Smith was an average starting left tackle for the whole season, which we got average starting left tackle play out of Olu, that didn't help us win any more games. And even if Mike Williams was a decent wide receiver 2 or 3, we got freaking Devontae Adams, who still looked pretty damn good. He was still like a top 20, 15 receiver minimum. And we didn't win any games. Why? Because the structural flaws of the team were so reprehensible that it didn't even matter. Because they had one of the worst coaching staffs in the NFL. And they detailed things like making kicks and tackling and tight end blocking. And I don't care what the counting stats say, they didn't have the minimum threshold of like quarterbacking play that could really overcome any of that stuff. Aaron was okay. It wasn't all on him. He was okay. He was better than a lot of stuff we've seen. I still don't think he was a top 15 quarterback at 40 whatever years old, coming off of an Achilles. So those were the issues. You had an old quarterback off of an Achilles who was probably like the 18th to 20th best quarterback in the NFL. So you're below average at the most important position. You're lacking mobility at the most important position in an era where it's never been more paramount. You are out coached in every single game. The Jets were probably at a coaching disadvantage, right? Almost every single game, which would, by the way, was a bigger issue than quarterback. No doubt about it. That was the biggest issue. And the kicker was just like here's just for fun. We're gonna throw that just for insult, right? And they didn't have the capability to even address it because their GM was neutered by the owner, so they couldn't even cut their kicker. If they would have got rid of the kicker, maybe they could have won more game. All that stuff, and all the panicking along the way about, oh my gosh, Mike Williams, Tyron Smith, we got to get. Now we have Dalvin Cook. Thank God. It never once has made the difference. It never once has. So why would I think again? I wanted Noah Fant. I wanted just to sign Noah Fant. I made a video about it. If they would have signed it, I would have said cool. But the Noah Fants of the world, signing them or not, has never truly made the difference with this franchise. First thing we got to figure out this year is, do you have a coaching staff? Because I'm not going to tell you Justin Fields will be way better than Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that. I think the Jets will probably be at a quarterback like passing offense deficit versus most of the teams they face. They're trying to run the ball. They're trying to rebuild their culture. He's a young guy with upside. That's cool. But let's just keep it real there. I'm not expecting a massive improvement as signal caller. It's tough to do that in free agency. But coaching has got to be the biggest thing. If we can end this season feeling good about Aaron Glenn and Tanner Engstrand, that's going to be the biggest thing. And they're betting on themselves, right? Which is why they're looking at guys like Andrew Beck and Stone Smart. And they're saying, can we get what we wanted out of Noah Fant out of those guys? What we wanted out of Jadeveon Clowney, can we get that between Michael Clemens and Eric Watts? Well, Clemens sucks. Okay, well, maybe he does. We're going to find out. That's the bet that they're making. These younger guys who they have identified they want roles for, and they're going to try and coach them up. And then we're going to find out. We're going to find out if they can coach. Because there's still enough talent on this team where they shouldn't be a 3-4 win horrible team. Justin Fields, whatever we want to set the criteria for him to have like had a breakout season, he should have the best season of his career. That would be my standard. He should have the best season of his career. Maybe that's not good enough for X, Y, and Z. He should have the best season of his career. That would be a really good referendum on the coaching staff. Also, young guys. Like, can Arian Smith have a role on this team right away? Or is he inactive and Tyler Johnson's playing over him? Because you see around the league, like that kid Horton from Seattle, like he's just going to plug in and go, man. He's just going to play. He's going to be the number 3 receiver, 5th round pick. Just keep it pushing. Can we do some of that? Can we get some of that out of the first 2 rounds, particularly on offense? Because we haven't done that since forever. The biggest weaknesses of this team last year, tackling and penalties, with a lot of the same starters, can those things go away and be improved? If you have guys committing penalties, are they still allowed to play? If you have a kicker who's costing you multiple games, do you address that? Or do you just let it? You don't even add a kicker to the practice squad last year. Just let it fester and hope to a go away. Are you proactive with those kind of things? If Justin Fields is struggling, what's your plan there? Because there was no plan for when Zach Wilson was struggling. I know it's not the same exact thing, but still young quarterback. You're trying to improve. That's what I'm looking for this season. If we can end the season feeling good about our coaching staff, it's a W. And what does that look like in the win total? Yeah, man, you're not going to win 2 games and feel good about your coaching staff, but I also don't think it has to be like a 10-win mandate. If this team wins 8 games and they got younger and cheaper, and with rookies at head coach and OC, and they inherited the second most amount of dead money in the NFL, and they got to shed that off, and they bet on themselves with lower risk young guys, and they win 3 more games than the previous guys did, emptying their clip to go all in to win 5 games. If you could beat that by three wins on a budget, that would be and put out a product that you're not getting blown out 40-0 by the Buffalo Bills to end the season. Where you don't score, where you don't like have 80 yards of offense against the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals score points on their first 6 possessions of the game. You know what I mean, like stuff like that. It can't happen. So, are you feisty? Are you scrappy? Are you disciplined? Can you win more games than last year? Does Justin Fields have the best season of his career? That's what I'm looking for. And I don't know if the Noah fans or the Jadavian Clownies of the world are solving it, man. So that's my take on it. We'll see what happens, and we'll talk all soon.